Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Tantra's Mantra, where we go behind and beyond the tech news headlines. I'm your host, Prakash Sangam, founder and principal at Tantra Analyst. If you are in the tech world, it is impossible to miss the news cycle going around Apple Vision Pro, pre ordering, shipping, reviews, and so on. All of that is bringing the focus back onto AR, VR, MR market. I'll use XR as a proxy for all these acronyms. So to be accurate, Apple calls Vision Pro a spatial computer, a standalone computer that you hang off your head. But indeed, it is a mixed reality headset. No questions about that. I had a separate episode discussing Vision Pro announcement. Please do check that out. But today's discussion is not about Vision Pro. Instead, it's about competition in the XR industry as a whole, and specifically looking at the enterprise market. XR in its over a decade of existence had its fair share of hype and bust cycles, many ups and downs, etc. Among all these chaos about its relevance, use cases, metaverse hype, and so on, one thing has been steady fast, and that is its relevance to the enterprise market. And it's proven in the last couple of years as well, especially in the training and the education space. That will be the primary focus of our discussion today. And to discuss that topic with me, we have a special guest on our show, and that is Vishal Shah, a good friend and the general manager of XR and Metaverse business at the enterprise giant Lenovo. Vishal, welcome to the show.
Hey Prakash, thank you so much for having me on Tantra's Mantra. I love the ring to that Tantra's Mantra. I like that.
Thank you. So yeah, again, welcome to the show, and very glad to have you here. We've been having a lot of conversations offline about the topic. Then I thought, why not we have it online, and the timing is perfect as well. The industry is buzzing with the thing they talked about. So to get started, could you give us a quick background on your career and your role and responsibility at Lenovo?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, I'm currently the general manager of our XR spatial compute and the enterprise metaverse business here at Lenovo. Lenovo, as you know, but I just want to make sure some of our guests know, it's a $60 billion conglomerate that works on devices that we call from the pocket to the cloud, all the way from brands like
Mm-hmm.
Motorola smartphones to iconic brands like the ThinkPad and ThinkStations on the laptop side, and then one of the largest edge and data center businesses in the world, right? And as part of that digital transformation that Lenovo is responsible for, Lenovo has made a big commitment to the XR space. I've had the honor of leading that business for almost 2.5 years, and I started my career at Motorola, the original Motorola, before it was sold to Google, and then eventually
Mm-hmm.
the mobile device part was acquired by Lenovo. So in some ways, I've come full circle back to the mothership.
Indeed.
And after that, I moved to San Diego to work for Qualcomm, where I worked on a variety of new incubation technologies, bringing them to like billion-dollar business scale. And after that, cut my teeth on various startups in the Bay Area, and then ended up at Lenovo about 2.5 years ago.
Very well. And Lenovo being a huge enterprise conglomerate, I think XR has a major role to play there. So it's a perfect matchup as such.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, XR had seen ups and downs. Metaverse has come and gone. At least the hype about it has come and gone. So how do you define the current state of XR industry today?
To me and to Lenovo, XR has always been about outcomes and solutions for the enterprise, right? So I think that
Mm-hmm.
that has been our remit and that has been our mission. How do we make sure that XR can be used for the digital transformation journey into the 3D internet for these enterprises? And how can we create a end-to-end solution that makes it very easy for enterprises to scale, deploy, and manage applications for AR, VR? So think of it as like making it as easy as deploying PC endpoints in the enterprise, right? Right now, companies
Mm-hmm.
deploy millions of PCs to their end users and end customers, and it's easy to scale. The software ecosystem is stable, the OS is stable, the hardware is cutting edge. So we're trying to emulate the same model on the AR VR side as well. Now, where the industry sees these boom and bust cycles, and as you likely said, has been more on the consumer side
Hmm.
of the metaverse, right? Where people thought that the metaverse is going to be this dystopian, Ready Player One kind of situation where people like consumers are talking to each other in XR glasses and spending their entire day in these AR VR glasses. Our view of the metaverse has always been the industrial metaverse. It has always been the how can we transform the 2D internet to the 3D internet where it's more applicable, and how do we create digital twins of various factories, industries, digital twins of medical devices and even patients, so that we can use them to be a lot more efficient, to learn faster, train faster, and analyze data in a more efficient way.
Yeah, I mean, as you rightly say, it's like another endpoint for enterprises, right? It's not using XR for the sake of XR, but finding a right use case and using all the tools available, including XR handset and the system to solve the challenges.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And you mentioned your focus has been on enterprise. Why? I mean, Lenovo has a consumer business, right, in terms of laptops and others. So why only focus on enterprise for XR?
Yeah, on the enterprise front, we feel that the outcomes, the ROI, are proven right now and can be easily deployed in these enterprises that we are working with. So, a perfect example
Hmm.
is when it comes to training and employee onboarding, right? With 10,000 baby boomers retiring every day, they are now being replaced by millennials and Gen Z.
Hmm.
Now, it's a known fact that when we train somebody in an XR environment, they are 4x more likely to retain this information. The error rate goes down to almost zero.
Hmm.
The amount of time it takes to fix a particular problem is reduced by almost 300%. So those are the outcomes when you're working on a gas turbine, or when you're training somebody to become a nurse or a doctor. I mean, those outcomes transfer
Hmm.
a small percentage of $1 billion problem, and that saves the companies hundreds of millions of dollars, right? So the outcome, the ROI, is significant there. And if you look at the device cost right now, I mean, they're still in the 500 to $1,500 range, unless you take some outliers that have been announced recently,
Hmm.
where that pricing is more appropriate for the enterprise as well, right? So that's why our focus was purely on the enterprise.
Hmm.
The other reason why we focused on the enterprise is we saw a clear gap in the ability of the market to provide end-to-end solutions, and that's where Lenovo has the skills to provide that complete stack that an enterprise needs. And by that stack, we've created four elements. One is cutting edge hardware, which is sort of our bread and butter.
Hmm.
The second is what we call our cloud-based Think Reality software system, which
Yeah.
helps you work with MDMs like Microsoft and AirWatch, helps you deploy content.
Hmm.
One of the biggest challenges in XR is it's not like regular PCs or smartphones. It requires quite significant amount of 3D content. It requires certain kind of kiosk modes for them to operate well. So we've created that software layer that helps enterprises and IT administrators do that. The third element is creating a robust ISV ecosystem
Hmm.
that is open and that's supported by Android. It's not a siloed system, so anyone can develop on that. So we've got over 100 ISVs
Hmm.
that are working on various verticals. So that's sort of our third leg of our strategy. And the fourth one, which I believe is extremely important and what we're getting recognized for, is our ability to provide enterprise services like security, end-to-end warranty in 180 countries,
Hmm.
like providing device as a service and leasing services, so you can convert from
Hmm.
capex to opex, right? So those are the kind of services that only a company like Lenovo, which has been in this enterprise for several decades, can provide
Yeah.
at a global scale. And when large companies are looking to deploy this and make this investment
Hmm.
worldwide, they want to make sure that we have a footprint in all the countries and continents that they operate in, number one. And number two, they want to work with a partner who brings a solution that's going to be around and that's going to be flexible for several years so that their investment is safe.
Very well. So I think, as I mentioned and you indicated as well, training in enterprise, I think it's a proven use case. Any other major use cases that you're looking at which have the potential to grow up to the training?
Yeah, absolutely. The other one that's really emerging right now is 3D collaboration, right? So right now, you and I are,
Mm-hmm.
talking on rectangular squares on a Zoom call or a Teams call.
Mm-hmm.
But imagine that, hey, I want to show you what my new consumer packaged good design looks like, or what my new engine that I'm designing looks like, and I need your help fixing it or making some modifications. We could quickly go from a 2D call to a 3D call by getting into our XR devices. So being able to transform the way we work in a more collaborative environment is a game changer that's already happening. And that leads to significant efficiency in being able to get your task done faster.
Mm-hmm.
And that also, it's a great environmental play, because now instead of having 5 engineers to
Mm-hmm.
come to your headquarters or your design factory, you're now doing it remotely. And it's a huge cost benefit and ROI to the company, because now you're collaborating in this mode and being able to make things more efficient and more clear on the fly. And just an extension of that is in the sales and marketing arena, right? You're seeing
Mm-hmm.
more and more of these conferences becoming more virtual. If I want to explain to a doctor how a particular heart stent works, I don't have to fly out
Mm-hmm.
to him or her and then take a special appointment. I can just do it online. I can help you design your next
Yeah.
house using a VR headset and actually walk you through what it looks like, so you can have a real feel of the color palettes. And you and your wife could be in different cities, and you can do it at the same time, do a walkthrough of your home. So those are the kind of innovation collaboration that's already happening. We're already working with companies like Natuzzi, which is a premier leather products provider in Italy, and we're launching these solutions with them, with some of our partners already.
Oh, I see. Yeah, and a lot of the collaboration, especially, needs not just point solutions, right? You need end-to-end support, including services and all the content and everything. So I think that's where a lot of value for enterprises as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. We just did a great LinkedIn video with our partners, both Qualcomm and a ISV called Sphere. This is where we work on another use case that's pretty popular on the augmented reality side, which is where you have your full spatial vision and then a digital overlay. Has been around the remote worker and remote worker assistance, right? So if I am trying to fix something remotely, or if I need help during a particular operation, I can dial back to an expert sitting in a different continent, and he or she can see what I'm seeing, and they can actually overlay and help me fix that particular part, right? Or help me walk through a particular procedure. So those are the things that we are working with, and we've defined a very robust ecosystem of solution partners that help you deploy these solutions. And that's not the only part, right? When you're trying to like access a manual in a 3D format, how do you convert it from
Mhm.
2D to 3D? We provide those services as well. How do you make sure that you have a more secure cloud infrastructure, right? Not everything can go into the virtual cloud. How do you make sure it's a more of a hybrid cloud or a private cloud infrastructure? We work with our customers to create those digital twins inside their cloud requirements and security requirements as well.
Okay, very interesting. So now let's address the elephant in the room, Apple's Vision Pro. I mean, historically, any industry or the market Apple enters, it significantly changes the landscape itself, and probably same thing would happen with XR, I'd imagine. So, what is your view? Do you think Vision Pro is changing XR game?
We are very excited about the Vision Pro announcement when it
Hmm.
came out, and the launch, right? We feel that the more players, more tier one players that come in, it is better for the industry, and it's a tide that's going to lift all boats. So it wasn't only the Vision Pro, there were a whole bunch of other slew of announcements at CES,
Hmm.
which really made this CES a very iconic CES for XR in general, right? So besides the AI buzz, the XR buzz was quite palpable at CES as well. We strongly feel that it's great for the ecosystem, it's great for the recognition of what XR can do, and we're always excited to see what these new players will bring in. And honestly, it brings up the standard for all the components manufacturers, in terms of
Yeah.
when it comes to optics, chipsets, battery, the material and finish. I think it raises the bar for everybody. And as a person who requires the services from these vendors, it makes our lives a lot more easier, and it gives us a lot more access to new technologies.
So that's a very good point. At the same time, I mean, Vision Pro and Apple, they have a kind of a different strategy, right? They're starting off with very high price range compared to what the current market is right now. They have single device. Probably they will spin out into different models and different tiers as well. But right now, single device for both enterprise and consumer market. It's more of a mix. I think it has a very less AR element. It's more of a VR and a MR mixed reality headset. And they have tons of apps compared to
Yeah.
others who started off. So how all of this will impact the competition, right? Will it change any of the competitions, including your strategy, or not?
That's a great question, Prakash. Our strategy
Mm-hmm.
with Think Reality is very differentiated from our competitors in one key element:
Mm-hmm.
the fact that we are built ground up, bottom up for the enterprise and the enterprise only. We don't pretend to be a social media company or a gaming company or a consumer company, just trying to create a device for those segments and then, hey, oh, by the way, use this in the enterprise as well.
Mm-hmm.
We know for a fact it does not work, right? The enterprise needs devices that are comfortable, that can be worn for long periods of time.
Yeah.
They need devices that don't have wires in them, right? And where the battery life is, they're all in one devices.
Mm-hmm.
They need devices with the complete end to end solution around some of the services I talked about and the ISVs that are specific to that. So that's a very important differentiation. And finally, they need the kind of global enterprise thinking and applications that Lenovo can provide and only enterprise companies can provide, right? So I think those are the key elements that differentiate us from our competitors, and that's a strategy that's always been recognized in the industry and recognized by our customers as well. Another key point is the fact that when you're serving the enterprise, there's a good chance that the worker
Mm-hmm.
who wears the headset in the morning is going to have to share it with somebody in the afternoon, right? Because they're using it for training or they're using it for remote operation. So we make sure that our devices work seamlessly across
Mm-hmm.
different personnel and different factories. We have removable faceplates. We've got wipeable faceplates, which are engineered for comfort.
Mm-hmm.
These devices work
Mm-hmm.
across multiple user IDs as well. We don't lock you into just one user
Mm-hmm.
ID, which a lot of these other devices, which are more consumer centric, do.
Mm-hmm.
And then we provide the best in class security and privacy. So your data is your data, right? It doesn't go anywhere else. Unlike some of the other social media companies and gaming companies who are well known about sharing data.
So for enterprise market, probably needs more optimized, tailor made for their use case. Maybe not right now, but in the long run, right? So I think being a enterprise player helps you understand those needs and maybe optimize a little bit more rather than just taking a off the shelf device. I mean, if you look at the other markets where Apple has entered, right, like using iPad for education or
Yeah,
a MacBook for enterprise and so on,
yeah.
most of these are off the shelf products selling into different verticals. Being a enterprise focused only company positions you better, right? Or
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's our unique advantage, and that's what customers are looking for from us, is that differentiation. And even on the B2B2C side, right? We with Google Chromebooks, we tend to have a very high market share
mm,
in the education space and the higher education space as well, and that's where we can leverage, our reputation and our product innovation quite substantially in those areas as well.
the price range, the current price range, as you mentioned, is between 500 to 1500, covering both consumer is on the lower side and enterprise on the higher side. And Vision Pros stands at 3500. I mean, I think the estimates of the bomb itself cost is around 2000. So playing a devil's advocate a little bit, if you're enterprise, your elasticity on price is much different, right? You can afford more expensive headsets compared to a consumer who's probably not have that much of a budget. So and you're setting a training facility, you're looking at a much longer life and multiple use cases and such. In such case, enterprise would be open to a higher price range for their devices.
Yeah.
So how do you see that? Do you see the overall pricing for enterprise market at least go up, or you think the lower pricing of non-Apple ecosystem will be a competitive advantage?
There will always be a niche market for that
Hmm.
2000 plus kind of devices. We already have products like Vario who are already
Correct.
have sort of the same specs as the Apple device, even sometimes even more superior.
Yeah.
That are already there, that are tethered to a workstation, that have a very limited application, right? So
Hmm.
those will always be used. In fact, we partner with Vario as well.
Hmm.
But to me, if you look at the sweet spot for the enterprise, it's somewhere in the $800 to $1,000 range, right? That's what we try to accomplish with the enterprise. And it's not only it's not only setting up these training rooms, but being more portable as well. A
Mhm.
lot of people, when they onboard their employees,
Mhm.
they don't only send them their laptops, they send them a VR headset as well, where they do the employee onboarding, where they do all their trainings, because the focus and the retention is much better,
Yeah.
right? So you can't escape the portability element, and the fact that it is all in one, right? So
Mhm.
this way you're not tied to a particular device ecosystem as well, right? Because not everybody in your company, if you have 200,000 employees, they're not all going to be using a particular kind of laptop or a smartphone. So that portability, that enterprise all-in-one view is very important as well. And then, of course, like you mentioned, there is the consumer side of the market, which is heavily subsidized, where they're subsidizing the hardware, but hoping that you're attached to their ecosystem and playing games, and subsidizing them through
Mhm.
purchase of this software, right? So on the enterprise side, it's all about the ROI that you can provide, and there's obviously more elasticity. But at the higher price points, we've seen the demand wane down quite a bit.
I see. Okay, and something to be said about spatial computing as well. I think that's one of the key things in Vision Pro, in my view, and quite evident that Qualcomm also came up with a newer version of their XR chip supporting spatial computing. So, where do you see that fit for for enterprise applications specifically?
I mean, I think spatial computing,
Mm.
we've always been using the term spatial computing, right? I think in some ways it has been co opted over the last couple of months, but
Mhm.
spatial computing is nothing new. And AR, VR, MR is a subset of spatial computing, and has always been, right? So
Yeah,
to us, it's nothing new. I think what's happening now is there's a lot of acceleration towards higher resolution
correct.
displays, and you can do that if you don't want a completely immersive environment. If you want to just project 2D images in front of you, that's quite possible. So for us, spatial computing is not a new term. It's it's as old as AR, VR, MR, and even things like Tesla is a spatial computer, right? I mean, it's kind of measuring your when it does its navigation, or when it does driver assistance. It uses these same technologies to give you a spatial map of where you are, to leverage that. So spatial computing for us is nothing new. It's something that we've always been doing.
In terms of ecosystem, I mean, content has always been an issue, especially enterprises need specific content and so on. And as you mentioned, they also need end to end support, not just point solution. So what specifically are you guys doing to work more on it? You talked about a little bit in the beginning. Anything more to add?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, to me, for XR to scale in the enterprise or even consumer, right? I think the biggest
Yeah,
Achilles heel has been around content, compelling content.
correct.
And finally, we feel we're getting around that, around two key parameters, right? Two key vectors.
Mm-hmm.
One of the vectors that we've invested in is working with Qualcomm Spaces to create a open ecosystem where these ISVs, these solution providers, can quickly create these applications across multiple devices, right? So that way they're not tied into a particular ecosystem,
Mm-hmm.
and they get a huge ROI from that investment. So that's been sort of one vector where we strongly are believers in the open ecosystem, and really encouraging that whole ecosystem to be
Mm-hmm.
Android based as well as OpenXR based. So that's one vector. The other vector that's really accelerating adoption is generative AI,
Mm-hmm.
and what it can do to help democratize content, to help make the content creation cheaper and faster.
Yeah.
Because if you look at XR content, it's basically 3D content, right? It's an art form. It's sometimes some things that requires Hollywood level
Yeah.
studio graphics and capture. It requires people with those kind of skills, like digital graphic skills, to create content,
Mm-hmm.
even and create digital twins. Now with generative AI, what
Yeah.
could be done by 50 people can now be done by 5 people, right? You now have applications that let you do text to 3D, text to like complete immersive 3D worlds.
Mm-hmm.
We were actually at CES, at the Lenovo lounge. We were showing something with one of our partners where you had a 3D assistant that would help you create these 3D worlds, on the fly, or it will help you like
Mm-hmm.
create these different engine models on the fly using generative AI. So we're already seeing the adoption of that really help the content becoming a lot more compelling and a lot cheaper. That will allow this whole ISV ecosystem to expand even further.
Very well. So, looking forward, what do you think is the growth trajectory? Say if you are on our podcast in next 3 years, Where do you think the market will be? What are the things will be available in the market, and what are the things that we'd be talking about?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're already seeing an inflection point when it comes to the enterprise adoption of VR technologies.
Hmm.
AR is right behind that on the enterprise side as well. We've had a successful launch of our A3 product,
Hmm.
and when it comes to the remote worker, AR is getting there in terms of comfort, battery life, and optics as well. So the next 18 months to 2 years are going to be super exciting, where we actually see scale and measurable ROI that is converted into a lot of customer interest. And the consumer space continues to be, something that we keep monitoring. That's going to be exciting, but for that, the price points have to get to the right level, and the content has to get to the right, need to consume in 3D mode, where that is very clear on the enterprise side when it comes to the focus, the digital twins, and the remote assistance. It's still not that clear on the consumer side.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. My progress on AR specifically is technology wise, it's still far away from consumer adoption. I don't see people wearing AR glasses in the form they are now, all day, and then they're walking around and so on. For an enterprise you're using for that specific use, you wear it and do that thing and take it off, right? So we'll see how that goes. VR, I think, has gaming and content consumption and so on. There's a lot of scope for that, but AR on a consumer side, I'm a little bit pessimistic, at least for now. We'll see. So we covered quite a lot of ground. Vishal, any closing thoughts?
No, thank you very much. I really enjoyed the conversation, and I'm looking forward to really helping this industry scale. And we get a lot of good feedback on Lenovo being the right partner that can provide that end-to-end solution in a safe, secure environment. So, looking forward to working and collaborating with our partners and really helping build this ecosystem out.
Perfect. Thank you very much for coming over to Tantra's Mantra and sharing your views and indulging in an informative and engaging discussion. Extra indeed a fascinating yet evolving industry. I'll closely be monitoring it. Hope to have you back on the show sometime in the near future to discuss how things have progressed.
Absolutely, would be my pleasure.
All right, thanks again. So, folks, that's all we have for now. Hope you found this discussion informative and useful. If so, please hit like and subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you are listening this on. Don't forget to check out our other episodes. I'll be back very soon with another episode, putting light on another exciting tech subject. Bye bye for now.